Well, it's meant a lot to me personally because I never expected to coach. Because I was an expansion club, and I figured we'd be about 3 or 4 years, and we'd be out of business. I coach football for the excitement. That's all that motivates me. So that's what keeps me in coach. We felt like that we were pretty good, and
I told Al Davis once, back when we were putting together an expansion franchise, that we'd be lucky to survive 3 years in this league. He laughed and said we'd probably get fired before that. I told him nobody takes an expansion club anyplace. And he was almost right about us too, because my first season with the Dallas Cowboys, we finished 0-11-1. Nobody thought we'd last. 29 years later, I was still standing on that same sideline in the same fedora. That's not something I take credit for alone. That's 29 years of players who made an old engineer from Mission, Texas look like he knew what he was doing. People ask me constantly, Coach, who were the greatest players you ever had the privilege of coaching? I've thought about that question a long time, because I spent nearly 3 decades building one football team, and I watched a lot of men come through that locker room. I'm not talking about statistics today. I'm not talking about championships alone. I'm talking about the men who made me stop during a film session and think, I am looking at something rare here. Now, I'll tell you, putting this list together isn't simple, because I coached this game with discipline as the foundation of everything I built. I never handed out praise easily. If a player's name is on this list, understand, he earned it through film study, through sacrifice, through showing me something week after week that most men never show a coach in an entire career. Number 5, Bob Hayes. I looked outside the traditional pipeline for talent more than most coaches in my era were willing to do. Bob Hayes was a track and field athlete, once considered the fastest man alive, and I drafted him to play wide receiver for this football team. A lot of people around the league thought that was a strange decision at the time. Track speed doesn't always translate to football instincts. That's what everybody told me. But what Bob brought to our offense changed the way defenses had to think about covering us. Defensive coordinators had never faced that kind of pure speed on the outside before, and it forced adjustments across this entire league. That's the kind of innovation I always believed in, looking for talent in places other coaches weren't willing to look. Number 4, Mel Renfro. Our doomsday defense didn't get built by accident, and Mel was a cornerstone of it for over a decade. He was one of the most complete defensive backs I ever had the privilege of coaching. Instincts, discipline, the kind of football intelligence you can't teach a man no matter how hard you try. When people talk about the defensive identity we built in Dallas, Mel Renfro's name belongs right at the center of that conversation. He went into the Hall of Fame because of it, and he earned every bit of that honor through the way he studied this game as seriously as I did myself. I drafted Mel in 1964, and I'll tell you something most people don't know about that day. He came into that draft as a running back out of Oregon, an All-American who could have played wide receiver, running back, even quarterback if you'd asked him to. I made the decision to put him at safety instead because I was building a defense from the ground up, and I needed athletes like him on that side of the football. He proved me right immediately his rookie season, leading our whole team with 7 interceptions and topping the entire league in both punt and kickoff return yardage. That man went to the Pro Bowl in each of his first 10 seasons in this league, 10 straight, and he still holds our franchise record with 52 career interceptions. He played in 4 Super Bowls for me, won 2 of them, and by the time he retired in 1977, there wasn't a coach in this league who didn't understand exactly what kind of player we'd built our defense around. Now, I built my career on discipline and structure, but the truth is some of the players who meant the most to me weren't just about scheme and technique. Some of them I remember for what happened off the field just as much as what happened on it. Number 3, Drew Pearson. Before people were talking about West Coast offenses and quarterback-receiver combinations that defined an era, we had Roger Staubach throwing the football to Drew Pearson, and that connection built the foundation for everything this franchise became known for. Offensively, Drew wasn't the biggest receiver in this league, and he wasn't the fastest either, not compared to a man like Bob Hayes. But he ran routes with a precision and toughness that made him somebody Roger trusted in every single situation, including the ones where the whole season came down to one play. That kind of trust between a quarterback and a receiver, that's something you can't manufacture through coaching alone. That comes from a player who shows up prepared every single day. Those three men built the foundation of what this franchise became in different eras, at different positions. But the next two names on this list, they played the exact same position for me, 25 years apart, and both of them were the best I've ever seen play it. I invented what people came to call the flex defense during my time in Dallas, and the whole system revolved around the activity of one specific position, the right tackle. For the better part of 25 years, only two men manned that spot for me, and I want to tell you about both of them because I don't think this league has ever seen two players that dominant at the same position for one team across so many years. Number two, Randy White. Randy took over that right tackle spot after the man before him retired, and he made that position his own for the next decade plus. I remember something about Randy that had nothing to do with football at all. When his father passed away, I sat with him, and I understood in that moment that coaching this game was never just about play calling and film study. It was about the relationships you build with these men over the years, relationships that go far deeper than football. Randy carried himself with that same kind of toughness on the field, dominating that right tackle position the same way his predecessor had. And I don't think it's a coincidence that both of the greatest defensive linemen I ever coached happened to play that exact spot in my defense. Now, before I give you my last name, I want you to think about this. I just told you two men manned the same position for me across 25 years, and both were among the greatest I ever coached. Go ahead and put your guess for the first one down in the comments, the man who set that standard before Randy White ever put on a Cowboys uniform. And if you're new here, hit subscribe, because we've got a lot more of these legends still coming. Number one, Bob Lilly. A man like that comes along once in a lifetime. He is something a little more than great. Nobody is better than Bob Lilly. I said that about him during his career, and I meant every word of it, and I still mean it today. Bob was the very first player I ever drafted as a head coach in this league, back when we were still trying to prove an expansion franchise could survive. He went on to play 196 consecutive regular season games for me, and in Super Bowl VI, he delivered the signature play of the entire game, a 29-yard sack of Bob Greasy that sealed our first championship in this franchise's history. I used to make my team run a mile on the first day of every training camp, certain times required for certain positions, and if a man didn't meet that mark, he ran it again every single day until he did. Bob Lilly never once completed that mile in 14 seasons, and he never had to run it more than once each camp either. Another player challenged me on that once, asked why Lilly got special treatment. I told him, you want to be treated like Lilly, play like him. Nobody ever did. He was the first Cowboys player inducted into our Ring of Honor, the first one enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and every time a player negotiated a new contract with this organization, I'd tell them the same thing. I can't pay you more than Lilly. That's how much that man meant to what we built in Dallas. And I don't think there's ever been a defensive tackle in this league's history who deserved that kind of standard more than he did. So there it is, Bob Hayes, a track star who forced this entire league to rethink how fast a football player could actually be. Mel Renfro, the cornerstone of a defense that carried our identity for over a decade. Drew Pearson, the receiver who built the trust that made our offense dangerous long before anybody was talking about quarterback and receiver duos the way they do today. Randy White, who took over the most demanding position in my entire defensive system and made it his own for over a decade. And Bob Lilly at the top, a man like that comes along once in a lifetime, and I don't believe this league has seen another one since. Now, I already know some of you are going to disagree with where I place somebody on this list. Maybe you think Randy deserved the top spot instead of Bob. Maybe there's a name from my 29 years in Dallas that you think I left off entirely. Go ahead and tell me down in the comments where you believe I got it wrong. And if you don't agree that Bob Lilly belongs at the very top, you're going to need a real argument. Because I told this entire league nobody was better than him while he was still playing, and nearly 3 decades of coaching afterward never gave me a single reason to change my mind.